Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Well, tonight, San Diego Unified School District Superintendent Lamont Jackson is out of a job. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jade Hindman, in for Maya Trabolsi. The school board heard the results of an investigation into Jackson today, and KPBS reporter Katie Anastas is live outside the district's central office with details. Katie.
Jade, the district hired an outside investigator to look into Jackson in May, but declined to share details until today. According to the investigation's findings, 2 women who previously worked for the district alleged that Jackson had made sexual advances that they refused. Board President Shana Hazen says the board hired an independent third-party investigator.
The allegation of inappropriate conduct toward 2 former employees was found to be credible. Based on that finding, the Board of Education and the superintendent have mutually agreed that separation is in the best interest of the district.
Deputy Superintendent Fabiola Bagula will take over as acting superintendent effective immediately. Live in University Heights, Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
As we head into the weekend, I will be tracking some great weather. Sunny skies making a return for your Saturday and Sunday. It is going to be a little bit humid, a little bit breezy from time to time, but overall, I'm tracking great weather, not just for Labor Day, but as we head into next week as well. I'll have an updated look at that forecast coming up.
And the San Diego Housing Commission was given more than $7 million to assist January flood survivors, but only about 1 in 4 of those displaced qualifies. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson visited one survivor who thinks that should change.
The funds are restricted to the few hundred families who were still using the county's hotel vouchers on May 23rd. Jessica Calix says that's not a good measure of need.
Nobody left the hotels because they were secure and recovered. Nobody's secure and recovered. People just ended up in their cars, in tents.
She moved out of the hotels in March. Her grandfather gave her an old travel trailer. She says it was more stable for her son Chago, who turned 8 the day their home flooded. When she pulled into the RV lot in Marina, she was gut punched. It backs onto a stormwater channel.
We had a storm in March, and it filled up almost all the way, but the water flowed through.
It wasn't like the channel in South Crest, where she used to live, which residents say the city didn't properly maintain.
If you go back to the one by my house at my old place, I thought it was a nature preserve. That's how many plants and trees were back there.
Calix and others are advocating for the Housing Commission's recovery funds to be made available to all survivors. A commission spokesperson says the amount was based on those few hundred families still in the hotels and will likely all be spent helping them. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
And the San Diego County Board of Supervisors is postponing a decision on affordable housing in unincorporated areas. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says industry leaders want new requirements to be flexible.
Inclusionary housing ordinances require certain new developments to include some affordable units. After dozens of meetings with stakeholders, county staff brought 3 options to the Board of Supervisors. Details like how many units would have to be affordable, how affordable they'd need to be, and what size development the rule would apply to varied. Lori Holt-Filer leads the Building Industry Association of San Diego County. She says county leaders should finish other policies they're working on before passing this ordinance.
Each of these plans or analyses could have a large impact on the feasibility of developing new homes in the unincorporated area.
County staff also shared ways developers could comply without providing affordable housing on site. They included paying a fee, donating land, and building affordable units somewhere else. Supervisor Monica Montgomery Stepp says she wants to make sure the policy helps create economically balanced communities.
To me, it's not inclusionary to say, if you don't want to include lower income in this project, then you can just pay a fee. How does that promote inclusionary housing?
The board directed staff to bring options back to them this winter. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Well, the high cost of housing is a big issue this election season. Coming up, Democratic activists and lawmakers here in San Diego are joining a nationwide push to build more homes. And this Labor Day weekend will wrap up a busy summer travel season. The Transportation Security Administration says all 10 of the busiest travel days of the year happen this summer. And as Emily Schmidt reports, the next few days are expected to set records of their own.
Officially, more than 3 weeks of summer remain. But for millions of people, soaking in the last of that time brings with it some baggage.
I mean, honestly, it was a nightmare trying to find parking here.
I'm off to Rochester, New York for my niece's wedding.
I don't travel on holiday weekends because of this. So this is me stepping outside of my norm.
The Transportation Security Administration says 2.86 million people could travel Friday alone, with an expected 17 million over the holiday weekend stretch. That would be a Labor Day record, but not even one of the top 10 days in a record-setting air travel year.
We're used to the heavy travel periods like Labor Day, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, so we are always geared for this kind of volume.
Air volume up, gas prices down. The app Gas Buddy projects the national average for a gallon of gas will be $3.27, the lowest Labor Day mark in 3 years.
We've seen prices come down about 15 cents just in the past month.
Overstay your holiday welcome, and experts say you'll face plenty of company with the worst travel time Monday, 11 until 8. But before that, there's a whole weekend ahead to enjoy.
Our flight got canceled due to weather, so we're rerouting. So, but we're not upset or anything. We're still going to get there for my grandma's 95th birthday.
Unlike millions of holiday travelers, summer not going anywhere quite yet. I'm Emily Schmidt, KPBS News.
Well, here at home, it was a busy day at the San Diego International Airport. Officials say they're expecting around 450,000 travelers over the next 6 days. Our media partner, KGTV, spoke with 2 travelers who say weather may rain on their travel plans. Both had layovers in Dallas, which is a massive hub for connections.
I had to cancel that and get a whole new flight and then switch airports and get my bags back, and it took super long.
My second flight from Dallas to New York was, I think, 5:10 p.m. And that was when that got canceled.
And for those hitting the road, expect to pay nearly $4.70 a gallon for regular gas in San Diego County. And an important safety reminder from California Highway Patrol: don't drive under the influence of alcohol or drugs. CHP is ramping up operations this weekend. Its annual maximum enforcement period begins tonight, starting at 6 p.m. and lasts through midnight Monday morning. About 80% of overdose deaths in the U.S. are from opioids, primarily illegal fentanyl. That's according to a Center for Disease Control report published this week. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says the study coincides with International Overdose Awareness Day, observed tomorrow.
2 6-foot-tall empty chairs displayed on either side of the border represent loss from overdoses.
So what we wanted to do is take the empty chair, which is a symbol that different groups, both in the U.S. and Mexico, have used to symbolize the missing loved ones precisely on these days.
One sits at Waterfront Park in San Diego, and the other at the Monumental Arc in Tijuana. Cecilia Farfan says suffering on both sides of the border is connected.
So it's a call to action also from the border to work in a joint manner to address the health and safety of our communities.
The U.S. is confronting a public health crisis driven by illicit fentanyl, and Mexico faces significant challenges related to harm reduction and treatment.
So people who had been in medically assisted treatments with methadone, unfortunately there was a shortage at the border, and then they went back to the black market to source substances. And there are reports from these organizations that provide services in Mexico have been that they did lose a lot of people to overdoses as well.
She says there is only one methadone clinic in Tijuana. In the U.S., the overdose reversal drug naloxone is available without a prescription. In Mexico, it's strictly controlled.
The problem is in Mexico, naloxone is not legal. So you've got people, and so many families cross borders daily, right, to come to work, or they have a family in Mexico, they go on the weekends. And so it's really tragic that in Mexico they don't have naloxone. And so part of our work is to try to solve that.
In San Diego County, 2023 data from the Public Health Services Department shows that about 7 out of 10 overdose deaths were opioid-related. In Mexico, the scale of consumption and deaths is clouded by a lack of data and testing. Both Farfan and Bergman believe overdoses are a shared crisis requiring binational solutions, not limited by borders. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the News Hour, in-depth analysis on the presidential race and Kamala Harris's first interview as the Democratic nominee. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
66 days from the presidential election, and both the Harris and Trump campaigns are still trying to clarify their positions on some key issues that could play a big part in the race to the White House. Michael Yoshida shows us how the campaigns are working to appeal to voters in what's expected to be a close election.
My values have not changed.
In her first sit-down interview since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris defending her changing policy positions, including flip-flopping on fracking, which could play a role in how voters cast ballots in the battleground state of Pennsylvania, where fracking is a huge employer. In 2019, while running for president, Harris said,
"There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking."
But Harris says that changed in 2020 when she joined the Biden ticket as VP. Adding Thursday, she now believes a clean energy economy can grow without eliminating the practice.
As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
On border security, Harris addressing another reversal from 2019 when she supported decriminalizing illegal border crossings.
We have laws that have to be followed and enforced.
Meanwhile, the Trump campaign adding to widespread confusion over its stance on abortion and reproductive rights. Over the years, Trump has gone from saying he's pro-choice to taking pride in helping overturn Roe v. Wade and saying that states should decide abortion limits. But this week, Trump refused to give a straight answer on how he'll vote on a ballot initiative that would overturn a 6-week abortion ban in Florida.
Well, I think the 6-week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
He's been very consistent in that. He says he doesn't like just 6 weeks. He obviously doesn't like late-term abortion. I think like a lot of Americans, the president is sort of somewhere else on this issue.
In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Well, local housing politics have found their way into the race for president. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it reflects a shift in the Democratic Party to embrace the term YIMBY.
So please sign up for YIMBYsforHarris.com.
Thousands of supporters of Vice President Kamala Harris joined a nationwide YIMBYs for Harris Zoom call this week. YIMBY stands for Yes in My Backyard, a slogan championed by activists who believe building a lot more housing is key to making it less expensive. Congressman Scott Peters was among the speakers.
So I'm excited to work with the Harris-Walz administration to make this vision a reality. Pass policies like my Building More Housing Near Transit Act, which would increase supply in transit-oriented neighborhoods, boost public transit ridership, and get cars off the road.
Housing policies like zoning and density limits have long been the concern of city governments.
And we will end America's housing shortage.
But Harris says the federal government, too, should push for faster approvals of housing. Jordan Latchford is president of the YIMBY Democrats of San Diego County. She says Democrats increasingly see building more housing as a position that wins elections.
We've seen both in San Diego, at the state level, federal level, those that are pushing pro-housing policies have been successful, and I think it really demonstrates that the more someone is supportive of housing in their communities and their neighborhoods, the more likely they are to do well.
Donald Trump has boasted of his efforts to block affordable housing in suburban communities, saying it would help keep criminals out of the neighborhood. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
A popular beach just outside of the San Onofre nuclear power plant will remain open to the public to enjoy. The Navy and Marines signed a 25-year lease with California's State Parks Office today. It comes just a day before the August 31st deadline. The original 50-year lease for the San Onofre State Beach and San Mateo Campground was extended another 3 years back in 2021. An estimated 2.5 million people visit the park each year. And a scientific breakthrough could change how we recycle. Researchers at UC Berkeley say they've found a chemical process that could keep breakdown plastic and keep it from ending up in our landfills. Lena Howland takes a closer look.
The future of recycling plastics could look completely different thanks to a new discovery at UC Berkeley.
We hope that this method can kind of provide a better alternative to traditional mechanical recycling, where instead of a lower value product out of the recycling process, you can get the exact same plastic by just recreating it from scratch.
That's RJ Conk, a chemistry PhD candidate at Berkeley. Conk built off years of prior research by Cal students and found a new way to take apart some of the most difficult plastics to deconstruct. We're talking about plastic water bottles, soap bottles, shopping bags, and more, according to advisor John Hartwig.
Sandwich bags, but also large objects and construction materials, as well as, the milk jug, the yogurt containers.
Here's how it works. Chemists combine waste plastics with two catalysts, sodium and tungsten, then seal it inside a high-pressure reactor, add ethylene, heat it up, and stir for about an hour and a half. Open up the reactor, and this is the result. No more plastic, just raw materials that can now be recycled.
I began to start to lose hope, but one day he came to me and actually said, I have the best results I think I have ever going to show you. And at the end of the meeting, I said, yes, that's true.
On Thursday, this research was formally published in the journal Science.
It is one of the most prestigious, highest impact publication forums that we have in sciences.
Big picture, they hope this process eventually will lead to less plastic in landfills.
I think the goal is to provide an economic incentive to collect plastic waste, or at least a disincentive to throw it out into the environment. If you can make it cheaper to recycle plastic, then less ends up out in the environment.
A feat conquered after years of trial and error with a little catalyst of luck.
Well, the number of 401k millionaires rose to a new record high. Ivan Rodriguez breaks down the numbers and how you can make the most of your retirement savings.
Great stock market returns don't always equate to having enough money saved for retirement. Mike Shamrell with Fidelity says it takes saving and investing consistently over time.
Put time in the market. Don't try to time the market.
Fidelity has 24 million 401k accounts across the 26,000 employer-sponsored plans it administers. Within those accounts, just under 500,000 had balances of $1 million or more at the end of June. That's up 2.5% from the previous quarter.
It's a very small percentage of our overall 401k population. It's only about 2%. One of the things that we point out about the 401k millionaires is that they have been on our platform on an average of about 27 years.
But the scenario for the vast majority of 401k participants is a bit less rosy. On the plus side, Fidelity found participants' average savings rate was 14.2%, just below the 15% experts typically recommend.
What we encourage people to do is at least save to the amount to where you're taking full advantage of what your employer is offering in terms of a 401k match.
If not, Shamrell says you could be leaving money on the table. Now for the bad news. The average 401k balance among Gen Xers, the oldest of whom will reach retirement in the next decade, was just $182,100. While it's never too late to start saving for retirement, joining the 401k Millionaires Club takes work.
This is not something that's going to happen overnight. You're not going to find some hot stock to add to your 401k and then all of a sudden, boom, you've got $1 million.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
As we head into this evening, I will be tracking evening temperatures in the mid-70s with partly cloudy skies, and heading into tonight, some low clouds near the coast with overnight lows a mix of mid to upper 60s here for us. The farther inland you go, to be a little bit cooler. 62 tonight for Oceanside and Camp Pendleton, 67 in San Diego, 64 Chula Vista. So overall, we'll see some moderate conditions with cloudier conditions there along the beach. But overall, here as we head throughout tomorrow, a pretty nice warm up here for us. We'll see the low 70 or upper 70s for San Diego and Chula Vista, low 80s for Oceanside, upper 80s there for Escondido. And then as you make your way towards the desert areas, it is going to be a little bit higher, temperatures are going to be a little bit higher with Mount Laguna right there, 79. So the higher elevation is going to be a little bit cooler at Campo right there, 96. So overall, we will see a mix of temperatures. But the good news is lots of sunshine here as we head throughout the next couple of days. So here's this evening, nice clear sky, some pretty thick cloud coverage just a couple of miles offshore. But as we head into the overnight hours, one thing I want to point out is that as we head into tomorrow morning, once the sun comes up, we'll see a few showers starting to develop and then more heavy rainfall developing across parts of Arizona. Also the mountains. The mountains will start to see some showers developing, even some rumbles of thunder possible as we head into your Saturday afternoon. But overall, this is all going to be blocked off, and we're going to see lots of sunshine here across central and southern parts of California as we head throughout your Saturday and Sunday. So here's a look at your 5-day forecast along the coast. Sunny skies, highs in the 80s. Winds will be a little bit breezy, and it is going to be a little bit muggy, but overall pretty decent weather. Overnight lows will be a mix of mid-60s. As you make your way inland, we'll see temperatures in the 80s for the weekend. We'll be back in the 90s on Labor Day. So a little bit of a warm up as we head into next week with increasing winds as well. The mountainous regions will be in the upper 70s, but then temperatures will start to trail off as we head into Labor Day. And then after that, taking a look at the desert regions, it's going to be hot for the weekend, but then a little bit of relief right there just in time for your Labor Day holiday. For KPBS, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Damian Lotus.
All right, Velour, a drag spectacular, is now at La Jolla Playhouse. It stars RuPaul Drag Race winner Sasha Velour. KPBS reporter Beth Accomando spoke with her about the show as well as the art of politics of drag.
My name is Sasha Velour. This is the set of our new play, Velour, a Drag Spectacular, co-created by me and Moises Kaufman, that tells the story of the life of a drag queen and the grand history of drag. Drag is really about heightening and a kind of camp quality where you give it your full intention and you make it real, but there's nothing real or practical about it. There's something kind of fearless about doing drag. You stop maybe caring about how others are going to react to you and follow your instincts about what feels right. And that leads us to stand up for things and up against voices of authority that maybe are pushing back. So I think a lot of political ideas have gotten their start in spaces around drag. So with everything I do, I need to be conscious. I try to be, but we also have to be, about clearing up misinformation with truth. Like, this is about giving people consent over their own bodies and decision-making power over how they live their lives. And nothing could be further from the way that we're so typically presented. I think that's why drag feels so political still. It's because being visibly queer, just being different looking in this world, like, sometimes politicizes you against your will, and you get wrapped up into these political conversations, when in reality, we're making art, we're having fun, we're entertaining people. So the process for me has been all about just trying to execute drag in a way that is more artistic and well thought out and carefully planned than ever before, but also completely true to all the things that drag is. When it comes to the actual art of the lip sync, it's a good thing that even though I have a microphone, that they turn it off, because I'm not a quiet lip syncer. I am growling and breathing and whispering incantations along with the song, and I feel like that keeps it looking, hopefully, ferocious on stage. And lip syncing is a strange art form. It's like, why aren't you singing? I think in the embodying of pop cultural references and remixing and changing the meaning of things by embodying them in new ways, there is artistic merit to be found. We're at an interesting time in drag's role in culture. For a lot of us, we're still trying to make a case that drag is a part of theater and is an art form that everyone can find themselves in and find entertainment in. Even though it kind of grew out of the queer underground, I think there's a message of self-determination and radical freedom that speaks to each and every person in the world. But the idea of drag, it's like a party that we create to give ourselves permission to be who we are, with video projection, lip sync performance, amazing costumes, and reveals of all varieties. I love creating a complex puzzle to perform in. I feel like that's what a drag costume involves. It's padding and corseting and exaggerating and diminishing. I feel like the set and the whole play should be just like that. These houses that explode and transform and are basically like drag queens themselves now. I feel like I invented a style of performing drag with video projections, all because my dive bar beginnings in drag didn't have a proper spotlight, so I started using the projector to like light my face, and then I was like, oh, and then I can change what it does and animate it as well. I always have things I want to fix. The drag makeover never stops. So we're gonna try to do another run of this somewhere in the next year.
All right, that story was produced by Beth Accomando, and you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jade Hindman. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.